Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak Easy English, the place where you learn English simply and easily. Let's start today's lesson.
What if the reason you're completely exhausted by 3 o'clock in the afternoon has literally nothing to do with how much you actually slept the night before?
Oh, that is a terrifying thought.
Right. But what if the real issue is that you are fundamentally confusing a routine with a schedule? I mean, most of us use those two words interchangeably all the time.
Yeah, we definitely do.
And that simple linguistic mix-up might be quietly destroying our daily energy levels. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something completely universal, yet, deeply personal, which is the daily grind.
And we have a really interesting kind of unique lens for this today. Our source material is a transcript from the Leo English podcast. It features these two speakers, Emma and Jack, and the original literal purpose of their conversation is simply to help English learners practice everyday vocabulary. So they're literally just chatting about their daily habits.
But just to be clear, we are not here for an English lesson.
No, definitely not.
We are using Emma and Jack's highly relatable, very mundane conversation to deconstruct the universal human experience of just getting through a Tuesday. We're going to extract how the specific language they use.
From that very first morning alarm.
Exactly. From the alarm all the way to weekend relaxation. We're looking at how those words actually frame our everyday lives. Because by looking at their choices, we can uncover the subtle structural differences in how we all attempt to organize our limited time on this planet.
Yeah, and by analyzing the vocabulary of the mundane, we really start to see the hidden architecture of how humans survive the modern world. I mean, every single day has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And the foundation of that architecture is laid the exact moment the alarm goes off.
Oh, the dreaded alarm.
Right. And looking at Emma and Jack, you immediately see this fracture in how people approach those crucial first moments of the day.
Yeah, so Emma wakes up at 6:30 a.m., and she notes that she genuinely likes mornings. She says she feels good in them, but she still openly admits to pressing the snooze button 1 or 2 times anyway.
Which is so honest.
It is. She jokingly calls the snooze button her best friend, which, that is a universal truth right there. The snooze button is this incredibly powerful psychological crutch.
It really is. And then Jack has a slightly different approach. He usually wakes up at 7 a.m., but he mentions this recent experiment where he tried to wake up at 5:30 a.m. So he could go for a run before work.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the experiment completely backfired. He couldn't get back to sleep, and it left him feeling groggy and just tired for the rest of the entire day. His baseline was completely shattered.
And that failure perfectly illustrates where we need to draw a hard line between those two interchangeable words we mentioned earlier. To help you listeners grasp the vocabulary here, think of a routine like a music playlist.
Okay, it's a playlist.
Yeah. It's the set sequential order of the activities you do. You wake up, you go to the bathroom, you wash your face, maybe you head straight to the kitchen. It's the sequence. It's the psychological safety of knowing what comes next without thinking.
Right. And the schedule, on the other hand, is the concert ticket. It dictates the specific, rigid time those things have to happen. The schedule says the concert starts at exactly 8:00 p.m. Or, in Emma's case, the alarm rings at exactly 6:30 a.m.
Exactly. So Jack tried to change his concert ticket to 5:30 a.m. without actually adjusting his playlist to accommodate it.
And his biology just essentially rebelled.
Total rebellion, because the schedule dictates the time, but the routine dictates the rhythm. And within that rhythm, we start to see a lot of variation based on another key vocabulary word from the source material, which is prefer. This word pops up constantly.
It does. And the word prefer, meaning to like one thing more than another, is highly strategic in this context. It highlights the biological choices we make just to get our brains online. Take the morning beverage, for example.
Oh, a critical choice.
Right. Emma always drinks coffee. She usually has 1 cup, sometimes 2 if she's particularly tired. She just loves it. But Jack explicitly states he prefers tea.
Which is controversial for some people.
I know, but his reasoning is purely biological. Coffee is simply too strong for his system, and tea helps him relax and wake up slowly.
So it's not just a casual taste difference. It's a highly strategic deployment of caffeine based on their personal nervous systems.
Exactly.
And we see this strategic preference show up again when it comes to getting ready. The clothing dilemma is a major one. Choosing what to wear can be surprisingly exhausting early in the morning.
Oh, it's the worst.
It is. Emma sometimes chooses her clothes the night before just to save time, deliberately avoiding having to think about it. Whereas Jack usually chooses in the morning, but he freely admits it can take a long time because he just can't decide, especially when he's still tired.
And that phenomenon is classic decision fatigue. Your brain only has so much willpower and decision-making capacity in a given day. By making choices the night before, Emma is preserving her limited morning cognitive load. And she does the exact same thing with her appearance, keeping her makeup routine to a strict, really simple 10 minutes. A simple routine is vastly easier to follow when your brain is only half awake.
That makes total sense. And that actually brings us to the shower debate, which I find really fascinating. Emma prefers to take a morning shower because the physical sensation helps her wake up, but Jack prefers to shower at night. His reasoning is that he feels clean before getting into his bed, but honestly, more importantly, it makes his mornings significantly faster.
Yeah, these morning routines are not just random habits that develop by accident over time. They are highly personal, highly optimized survival strategies meant to minimize friction.
Survival strategies, I like that.
Right. When Jack says he prefers a night shower, he is strategically offloading a heavy task from his morning playlist and pushing it to his evening playlist. He is fiercely protecting the fragile timeline of his morning schedule.
He's moving the heavy lifting to a time when he has fewer external pressures. But, no matter how perfectly you optimize that morning playlist or how much decision fatigue you avoid, eventually the front door opens.
The concert begins.
Yes, the concert begins. The rigid external schedule takes over.
And once you step out the door, your internal rhythm is largely at the mercy of external societal structures. The commute essentially acts as the transition zone between those two worlds.
And their commutes are so different. Emma has a 20-minute walk to work. She appreciates that it's completely free, which saves her money, and it's undeniably good for her physical health because she gets daily built-in exercise.
Yeah.
But Jack has a much more stressful 30-minute bus ride. And because city traffic is so unpredictable, he has to form the habit of leaving his house early, basically just building in a buffer to absorb the stress of the schedule.
And Jack attempts to reclaim that transition time. He listens to music or English podcasts on the bus. Emma, on the other hand, mentions checking emails and reading news articles on her phone for about 15 minutes during her morning. And what's interesting is the source material frames these activities using the vocabulary word relax, literally defining it as resting, feeling calm, and stopping work.
Okay, I actually have to push back hard on the source material's use of that word here. Are we honestly supposed to believe that Jack, gripping a metal pole on a crowded, traffic-delayed bus while pumping a podcast into his ears, is actually relaxing?
It's a stretch.
Or Emma scrolling through the chaotic morning news cycle on a tiny screen? I don't think that's relaxation. I think we are just so terrified of being understimulated or bored that we frantically cram information into our only available downtime.
I totally agree that relax is the wrong descriptor. We're defining it as genuine rest. What we are actually observing here is constant energy management.
Energy management.
Yeah, that they are using these digital inputs, the podcasts, the news articles, to artificially modulate their mood and cope with the looming reality of the workday.
Because that workday schedule is intense. Both Emma and Jack start their jobs at 9:00 a.m. It's the classic, rigid 9-to-5 structure. Emma processes 30 to 40 emails a day, spending a massive portion of her time just answering them.
Right.
Jack only gets about 10 to 15 emails, but he spends a massive amount of his day trapped in meetings, sometimes 2 or 3 a day.
And Jack specifically notes that while those meetings are vital for team collaboration, they are incredibly tiring. This highlights a really important difference in cognitive drain. Emma is dealing with the friction of rapid context switching through emails.
Oh, that's exhausting.
Yeah, and Jack is dealing with the performative energy drain of interpersonal meetings. So their energy management has to become meticulous. They aren't just scheduling their work tasks, they are meticulously scheduling their recovery moments.
The strategic breaks are a perfect example of that. Around 10:30 a.m., they both take a short break just to drink water and regain visual focus away from their screens. And then at 11:00 a.m., there's another scheduled break for a small snack. And they are highly specific in the source material. They usually eat fruit, like an apple or a banana. They specifically avoid eating candy.
And the biological mechanism here is key. The source mentions that sugar gives quick energy followed by tiredness. But if we dig into the why, it's really about the glycemic index.
Right.
A piece of candy causes a massive spike in blood sugar, which prompts an insulin dump, which physically derails cognitive focus an hour later. That sugar crash would utterly destroy their carefully managed afternoon schedule. So choosing the complex carbohydrates of a banana is a vital survival tactic to protect the rest of the day.
Exactly. And then lunch hits at 12:30. They get a 1-hour break until 1:30, Emma usually brings a sandwich or leftovers from the night before. Again, a highly strategic choice because it saves precious time during the hour, and it saves a significant amount of money since restaurant food is so expensive.
It really adds up.
It does. Jack sometimes brings his lunch, but he prefers to go out to a nearby cafe once or twice a week to get a sandwich or a salad. But his main motivation is just to take a walk and get fresh air.
And that physical movement and change of environment, getting that fresh air, is another critical form of recovery. Because what looms ahead is a biological inevitability for almost all humans, which is the dreaded afternoon slump. Around 2:00 or 3:00 p.m., both Emma and Jack admit to feeling deeply tired.
And to combat that slump, they deploy micro-interventions. Maybe another cup of coffee for a sharp caffeine hit or a short 5-minute walk around the office. They are basically performing CPR on their attention spans just to make it across the finish line at 5:00 p.m.
Which turns the traditional 9 to 5 into less of a solid block of time and more of an endurance event that requires heavily planned refueling stops.
It really is an endurance event, but crossing that 5:00 p.m. finish line brings us to the evening decompression. The rigid external schedule finally loosens its grip, and we see an immediate, universally relatable transition the exact second they walk through their front doors.
They immediately change their clothes.
A second they get home. They change into comfortable clothes right away. Specifically, the transcript mentions sweatpants and t-shirts, and I firmly believe sweatpants are the official uniform of the word relax.
Oh, absolutely.
You literally cannot maintain corporate stress levels while wearing sweatpants. It's an automatic physiological downgrade in tension.
It serves as a physical signaling mechanism to the brain that the rigid schedule portion of the day has officially concluded. And what is particularly brilliant about the source material here is how it uses these evening habits to map out adverbs of frequency.
Okay.
It moves beyond a simple grammar lesson and becomes a sort of diagnostic tool using words like always, usually, sometimes, and never.
I actually have a hypothesis about this. If always is 100% of the time, and usually is most of the time, I imagine the evening becomes entirely ruled by the word sometimes because our willpower battery is just completely shot by 7:00 p.m.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like, you always plan to be the person who cooks healthy fish, but sometimes the delivery pizza just wins.
And that hypothesis is entirely supported by their behavior in the transcript. Your use of the word sometimes becomes a direct metric of your depleted mental battery. For dinner, Emma usually cooks simple things, pasta, rice with vegetables, maybe chicken or fish. But sometimes when that battery is empty, she orders takeout, like pizza or Chinese noodles.
And Jack
Admits he isn't the best cook to begin with. So he relies heavily on takeout, cooks incredibly simple things like eggs, or takes turns cooking with his girlfriend to split the cognitive load.
Their relaxation choices really reflect that depleted energy, too. After dinner, Emma watches American TV shows, specifically comedies and dramas using subtitles, so she can passively learn English phrases while she unwinds.
Yeah.
And Jack boots up his video games. He prefers adventure and sports games, playing for about an hour 3 or 4 times a week. His explicitly stated reason, it helps him forget about work.
That's active escapism right there.
Yeah.
The games require just enough focus to block out lingering thoughts of the office. But amidst that escapism, they also prioritize social connections, which serves as a completely different form of psychological recovery. Jack video calls his mom, who lives in another city, once or twice a week. He specifically prefers video calls so he can actually see her face.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and Emma has a standing routine to call her parents every single Sunday.
Finally, the day winds down to the actual bedtime routine. Emma goes to bed at 10:30 p.m. because she knows she needs a solid 8 hours of sleep to feel good for her 6:30 a.m. alarm. To relax before sleep, she reads fiction, and she specifically points out that she reads physical paper books.
That's an important detail.
It is. Jack goes to bed a little later, at 11:00 p.m. He only gets about 7 hours of sleep. He reads ebooks on his tablet simply because they are more convenient to hold.
And that specific difference, the paper book versus the tablet, is crucial. A physical paper book serves as a tactile, cognitive off-ramp. It signals to the brain that stimulation is ending, allowing natural melatonin production to begin.
Right, because of the screen.
Exactly. Jack's choice of a backlit tablet, while convenient, is likely secretly keeping his brain engaged and suppressing that melatonin, which perfectly explains why he ends up getting less sleep overall. They both acknowledge that getting enough sleep, avoiding just getting 5 or 6 hours, is critical. It is the final necessary step to prepare the biological machine to run the entire punishing schedule again the next day.
Okay, so that covers Monday through Friday. But what happens when the alarm doesn't have to ring? Let's look at the weekend rebellion. If weekdays are strictly governed by these rigid imposed schedules, weekends become the designated time for structural rebellion.
The contrast they describe is incredibly stark. Emma says her weekends are just fundamentally different. Jack explicitly states he loves weekends because he likes to sleep late.
Oh, we all do.
Right. Sometimes he sleeps until 11:00 a.m. He notes that this massive sleep-in makes him feel incredibly relaxed.
Okay, wait. I have to challenge Jack's definition of relaxation here again. If you wake up at 7 a.m. all week and then sleep until 11:00 a.m. on Saturday, doesn't that completely wreck your circadian rhythm for Monday morning?
It definitely causes issues, yeah.
It sounds like social jet lag. Is he actually resting, or is he just setting his biology up for a brutal shock when the schedule reasserts itself in 48 hours?
You are identifying a very real physiological consequence there. That 2 to 4 hour shift in wake time absolutely creates a mild form of jet lag. However, the psychological release of abandoning the alarm clock often outweighs the biological confusion in the short term.
Just to have that freedom.
Exactly. The rigid external schedule is gone. But what's really fascinating is that even in full rebellion from the 9 to 5, they don't descend into complete chaos. Humans still naturally crave and form routines. The vocabulary of daily life doesn't disappear. The rhythm just shifts its priority from productivity to recreation.
So the playlist still exists, you still play songs in an order, you're just playing totally different music.
That's a great way to put it.
Huh.
Consider Jack's weekend. He wakes up late, has a slow breakfast, and watches sports on TV like football and tennis. But he also engages in a regular physical routine. He plays football in a big park field with his friends for 1 to 2 hours, 2 or 3 times a month.
And Emma has her weekend playlist too. She takes peaceful walks in nature specifically to get fresh air away from the city. She mentions doing yoga in the evening around 6:30 p.m. She stays up until midnight because she doesn't have the looming threat of the morning alarm.
Right.
And she maintains her social routine with that weekly Sunday phone call to her parents.
So the schedule, the inflexible timeline dictated by employers and traffic, that completely vanishes. But the routine, the internal sequence of restorative activities, remains completely intact. They are still making deliberate choices about what they prefer. They are still managing their energy levels, but they are doing it entirely on their own terms.
Which is such a powerful distinction. You know, what the Leo English podcast transcript brilliantly accomplishes just by casually detailing the mundane lives of Emma and Jack is offering us a profound lesson about how we manage our existence.
It really does.
A schedule dictates your time. It's the concert ticket, the external pressure from the world, but your routine dictates your rhythm. It's the internal sequence of habits you build to survive and hopefully thrive within that pressure.
In the vocabulary words we pulled from their conversation today, prefer, relax, usually, sometimes. These are not just simple grammar points for language learners. They are diagnostic markers that reveal our underlying human priorities.
That's so true.
What you usually manage to do shows what you fundamentally value. What you prefer shows how you instinctively protect your mental energy against a very demanding world.
So, to you listening, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over long after this deep dive finishes. Take a brutally honest look at your own daily habits. If a total stranger observed your routine, from the minute your alarm goes off through your afternoon slump to the exact moment you put on your sweatpants, what would they assume your life priorities are? Are you actively designing and controlling your schedule, or is your schedule quietly controlling you?
The words you use to describe your everyday habits ultimately become the reality of your life.
Think about that invisible scaffolding we've been unpacking today. You are the architect of that structure. Make sure you are actually building a day that you want to live inside. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you for watching. Keep practicing English every day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next lesson. Goodbye.